for a lot of people before they transition. Some loved ones who had transitioned may appear to them, may be communicating with them. So I would say there really is nothing to fear. As I mentioned, I look forward to being back on the other side. Um, Sometimes if we realize that there's nothing to fear, we won't try to glom on so tightly to what is here. And it doesn't matter if you do that or not. It doesn't matter if you are fearful. You will find out how wonderful the other side is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the channel within. I'm Mira, and today I'll be speaking with Diane Brandon, and I'm so excited to talk with her. She's an author, intuitive, speaker, teacher, expert on born aware phenomenon, a term that she coined herself, and dream interpretation, among other things. So, Diane, thank you so much for being here with me today, and welcome.
Thank you. Hello, Mira. I am so happy to be with you. I appreciate your invitation to be on your show and to speak with you.
I am happy as well. So, why don't we get started, Diane, with your spiritual journey before we go ahead and define that term, born aware?
Of course, of course. My spiritual journey. Well, um, I was born aware. I've always remembered what I thought when I was born. And I had a regular upbringing in New Orleans. I was born and raised in New Orleans. And I guess I didn't see any mutual exclusivity between, the church I was brought up in and my spiritual awareness and my memories. And so all of that just kind of, the spiritual awareness just kind of lay there for years until in my, I believe it was my early 20s, I encountered, met a couple of people who were interested in spiritual topics. It wasn't until I can't even remember how old I was. I was probably in my 30s or 40s when a woman, spiritual, intuitive, decided to hold metaphysical classes. And that was the first time I was in a room with a group of people, not just a few, who were interested in metaphysics and spirituality. And that was kind of a springboard for me because I had been reading, research on sleep and dreams for years, even ever since I was an undergrad. But it allowed me to plug more into consciously a lot of things that I did know, that I remembered. And it then was when I started working professionally with my intuition over 30 years ago that it opened up even more. And so what I have discovered is yes, there's been a lot for me to learn, but a lot of this is also gradually uncovering some things that I remember and already knew. And there's always a personal effect, I feel, when we start exploring and opening up because we go through shifts and awarenesses that not only benefit our lives, but benefit us personally. So I have fully embraced the spiritual side of me, excuse me, all the memories that I have. And that has grown for me. And I would never want to go back to how I was for years, where this was just there underneath the surface. So, that in a nutshell is my spiritual journey.
Was there a lot of inner work involved?
Oh, I would say yes, Mira. Um, I remember when I meditated for the first time, it was in a group. I didn't know what to do. I was very nervous. I was fidgety. And then, excuse me, I had an individualized regression. And so meditation has been really big for me. Um, so I have been regressed. I've regressed myself. I've regressed clients sometimes when I do sessions if they're interested in that. And so there's been a lot of hands-on at the same time trying to be self-aware, to live my life consciously, which to me means to be aware of self and how we are and what our actions are and our interactions with others. So yes, there's been a lot of personal work in it, and I feel that the two are really related, Mira. And as we start working on what I call our personal stuff, our issues, we are freeing ourselves up more to connect spiritually. As people talk about, higher energy, our personal stuff, our fears is all kind of a denser energy pattern. And as we are working on clearing some of that and finding some success, we really are lighter in our energy. And and I feel that when we talk about spiritual exploration or connecting with the divine, it's by going within. So there have been a lot of shifts and changes and a lot of personal work, inner work. I'm very big on all of that. Yes.
I really like that because I feel like the only way out is in. So, in addition to meditation and past life regression, what other tools can we use to raise our vibration or frequency that you just mentioned?
Oh, there's so many these days, Mira. It is a long list, and I never overlook counseling, working with somebody in therapy, especially somebody who takes a holistic approach. There's meditation, past life regression. We can go to healing sessions like whether it's Reiki or healing touch. We can study Reiki healing touch, other forms of healing. There are so many paths these days. There are so many modalities out there. And so I think probably the first step is to learn what modalities are out there and see what pulls you. I never feel that this is a one size fits all sort of path for people. It's so important to go by what we're drawn to because we're drawn to things for a reason. I feel that there is purpose in everything. So if you see what pulls you, what draws you, you may initially put your toe in the water, and try it out. And nothing says you have to do the same thing over and over again. So if you try one modality and then are drawn to another, that is fine because it is all grist for your personal mill. It is all grist for your personal path, your personal process of unfolding and growing. And I need to add that it is a process. It is a process. I think sometimes we think that spiritual growth is an on-off switch, and it's not. I mean, I have been spiritually aware since birth, and I am still exploring and growing and remembering. So it's a process, and I think it's important to honor that. In our Western society, we tend to be very task oriented and concerned about time, and we want to get there yesterday. Unless you have had a transformative experience, such as a near death experience, there's usually a process involved. And even if you have a sudden transformative experience, like a near death experience, you have to integrate that into your life, into your awareness, into your knowing, into your being, which can take some time. And we always want to be kind to ourselves and not should ourselves and excuse me and say, I should be there now. But realize that it's a process. One thing I find helpful for people to do is if we have started on our journey, and sometimes we've started on it and don't realize we've started on it, to allow ourselves to think back. How was I 5 years ago? How am I now? And that's how we can really start to see the progress we've made.
That's beautiful. And thanks for the reminders. I think we're so fortunate to be living in the information age where we can Google things, we can find out about the different types of modalities, like you said, and try things that resonate with us. And
Yes.
so, yes, we are so extremely fortunate. So, yes, Diane, let's delve into this born aware concept, which I'm so fascinated with.
Well, it didn't really come out of left field because I was born aware. I've always remembered what I thought when I was born. But to even mention it, I'd never thought of mentioning it to other people. And for all I knew, everybody had these memories. And I was surprised. I guess I started to be surprised as an adult that people weren't really talking about those memories. And it was back in, oh, I want to say 2014, maybe approximately, that a client in the context of a session mentioned her memories to me. And I said, oh, well, I have memories too. And then 3 or 4 months later, as I was teaching a workshop on intuition, in the context of an exercise, one person shared her memories from before birth. And I thought, oh, okay, all those years nobody mentioned anything. I think I'm being given a message. And I mean, I know when I'm being spoken to. And so I looked for others with these memories. And I thought it would just be a piece of cake. And I was surprised that I really approached a lot of people before I found people with the memories. And I started interviewing people. And that's how the awareness of this as a phenomenon really started to grow. So it basically means refers to people who've always remembered what they thought when they were born, not those who went regression and things came to them. Because what I've found in my research, always having remembered the thoughts and awarenesses from birth is almost like an imprint. We're imprinted, and we're a little different. There's some attributes that we all have in common, and our memories do not go away. A lot of times with children who have past life memories early, 2 to 3 years old, I think it's approximately 30 some to 40% retain those memories as they grow older, but the majority of people don't remember them. So this is the imprint, for those of us who've always remembered. And a lot of us remember not being here in a human body in the present lifetime. We tend to think of, people say, well, when I was born. Well, we don't think in those terms. We think of when I came here, because our souls came here, and got into a body. So we know this is not our true home. And most of us long to be back home on the other
That
side.
makes sense. And I
Yeah.
feel like on a deep level, we all long to be home. You see this in end of life situations. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
sometimes we all have this sense of nostalgia or homesickness. And sometimes you yearn for maybe childhood memories, etc. But sometimes it seems so much deeper. And I can only imagine having retain those memories, how difficult it is for people like you guys who do have those memories. And in terms of the memories themselves, can you give us examples of the different types of memories, maybe your own, and if you can share from your book as well?
Of course, of course. What I remember thinking when I was born, and this was not like thought, it was just instantaneous. I did not want to be here again. I was really upset that I had to be here. I remembered being with God, and I knew that while I was here, that immediacy, it wasn't as strong. I knew that I remembered on the other side that I had absolute knowledge. And I knew that while I was here, I couldn't have absolute knowledge. And that made me unhappy. I knew that I had to be here because there was something I was supposed to do. I thought it had to do with performing. I've learned, I pursued performing for years, but I've learned since I started doing this work that this is why I'm here. Um, some people remember looking around the delivery room and recognizing souls. Some people think about what brought them here and the guides who helped bring things about for them to be here. One person in my book remembered the pain of the birth experience because they had to use forceps, and he worried about whether he would be damaged in life. So they tend to be memories like that. Um, and there's just kind of this background memory of our true home. Um, One woman remembered, being an angel on the other side, making things, being directed. She worked in a group and being directed by God to do things or make things. So there are various memories, but I have to also share, Amira, that this this awareness is not that of an infant. It's not infantile. It is a very clear, observant, mature consciousness. And that could
So,
lead on to another tangent, but we don't need to go there.
so with that said, it seems like you come with your higher self memory then. So are you able to experience life from, say, the toddler in the different growth stages? Or are you already, you know,
That's a wonderful question, Mira. And what I have to say is, I started calling it the higher soul awareness because one thing I noticed with myself throughout my life is I found myself thinking, well, on one level, I feel this, on another level, I feel this other thing. And so I incorporated that question as I was interviewing people, and they had all experienced the same thing. So I think the awareness those born aware have at birth is in the higher soul awareness. But we have this human psyche that develops. And for born awares, you have to learn how to navigate life on this planet, depending upon your experiences growing up. I mean, if there's abuse or difficult experiences, the human side of us is affected. So it's almost as if, no, we have that human side because that's the mechanism to help us navigate through life. So we are not these little, in our higher soul awareness all the time. Many of us have, the fears and the wants and can be affected by mindsets and beliefs. And we can be at odds within ourselves because in our higher soul awareness, we're very clear about what we know and believe, but it's not really belief because a lot of times it is awareness and memory. And then we have this other human part of us. So they coexist. The consciousness is not the same. I used to think of it as a spectrum of consciousness and obviously different vibrational energy. But I think they exist alongside each other. And of course, We know that living different lifetimes, we don't have the same human persona in every lifetime. The higher soul awareness remains the same from lifetime to lifetime, and depending on what type of body we're in, whether it's a human or whatever form we're in. But the consciousness attached to the type of body we're in, the organism, will vary. The personality will vary as well. But it's the higher soul awareness that's the constant.
Thanks for that explanation. It totally makes sense. Yeah, it resonates with me. How far back could these memories go, Diane? Is it just behind the veil, or could it go back prior lives? Because you mentioned the 2 to 3 year olds who may remember their lives, and I saw a Netflix documentary about that.
I think it depends upon the individual, Mira. Um, some people's some people's memories are of that other place, but they're not necessarily um, very, very detailed. And and some people remember in more detail. And the book I need to get back to working on is about people's memories of the other side. And some people will remember past lives. Um, I think we can be aware of past lives and have memories of those without necessarily being born aware. I think they're not the same
Yes.
phenomenon.
Yeah.
And there are so many instances. Dr. Ian Stevenson was at UVA, University of Virginia, and researched that and found a number of children, more so in the Middle East, who, when they started talking, were talking about, when I lived at such and such and my name was such and such, and actually went and with the child to the other village, and the child was able to identify, this was my house, and this is so and so who's in my family. So that is definitely a true phenomenon. I think some people are very clear in remembering. I always remembered going with my mother down cobblestone streets and to have dinner with a friend of hers whose husband was a sea captain. And I finally mentioned that to my mother as an adult, and she looked at me like I had two heads. So this was a past life memory. And I've always felt that I was a nun or a monk in the Middle Ages, though I don't know the specific life. And I have always felt that I was a chanteuse in Paris in my last lifetime. So I think we have degrees of memories about other lifetimes. Sometimes it's in the form of being drawn to a particular culture or type of dress or even languages. When I started studying French in eighth grade, it was like relearning a language I already knew. And I've studied Spanish, and a little bit of German, and I've sung in all those languages and some others, but French is my French is the one that I love. And I think that also speaks to past life. So we get little suggestions, even if we don't have a full detailed memory of another lifetime, we get little hints about things. But yes, there's remembering past lives and being in our higher soul awareness, being more aware, are not always the same thing.
Yes. Thank you for that clarification. Diane, what about your memory about the other side? What do you remember?
What I mainly remember is being with God and how wonderful God is. Just it's hard to put into words. And I've spoken to just a couple of other people who remember being with God, and I know there are more out there, and we say verbatim the same thing. The energy is unmistakable. I remember everything being wonderful. I remember that there aren't forms. We're not in a body. It's energy. It's all pure energy, and it's bliss. So my memories of the other side are kind of general and not necessarily specific. And a couple of the people I've interviewed for the next book have very specific memories of the other side. We also tend, I think, if we do have memories, I was educated by one of the people I interviewed that there are levels on the other side. So if we remember, we may be mainly aware of the level that we were on, not necessarily of the totality.
So it's similar to NDEs where they have common themes and yet could be very different. And so, in talking about the energies and the light, it
Mhm.
seems like that is where the commonalities here may be for you guys. Is
Yes,
that
yes,
correct?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and um,
Do some of those resonate with you? The
oh,
NDE?
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I was in the Research Triangle in North Carolina for many years, and there is still a spiritual group there, Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, and Tom Sawyer is a very well-known near-death experiencer, and he came to speak a couple of times to SFF, and he could not talk about his experience. He could not talk about the light without tearing up, and it just resonated so strongly, so strongly. And the transformations that some near death experiencers go through are just beautiful and very, very inspiring and uplifting.
I agree. They give us so much hope, especially for those of us who have loved ones on the other side as
Oh
well.
yes. Oh
Yes.
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes. Yes. Um, love never dies. Consciousness never dies. And there's so many different things that can happen on the other side. There's so many different levels. And one thing I have seen through my work is at some point after we transition, we kind of shed the human side, and it's easier for us to be in our higher soul awareness. And we just the richness, not just that everything is positive and souls are loving, but the richness of what we perceive and are aware of that as humans, we're like have this little weirdness like blinders on. And there is so much possibility on the other side. And there's so much that our human minds cannot begin to understand or conceive of. So it's magnificent.
That is true. Um, Diane, so why do you think we sign up to come here? Because you were saying you were saying before that you had a hard time, and I imagine that's one of the downsides to this knowing and the memories that you retained.
Well, in my instance, I didn't sign up. God told me I needed to do it.
Mm.
And somebody said, "Well, you have free will. You could say no." And I'm like, "You don't understand. It's not like a human child going, well, I don't want to. It's, you know, you totally accept, okay, I'm supposed to do this." And I know some people have memories of making a decision to come here. And my understanding is it's for soul growth, because on Earth, and I'm sure in other parts of the universe as well, yes, it's a denser vibration. We don't have just the beauty and the wonder and the goodness of the other side. We have polarity. We have good stuff and bad stuff and positive experiences, and some people have awful experiences. So it's for the soul growth is what I have heard over and over again. It is a bit of a shame that we have to go through difficult experiences for our souls to grow. And I think they can grow through positive experiences as well, but that seems to be a major reason. Some people I feel come because there are things they are supposed to accomplish. I feel a lot of it too has to do with moving humanity forward. That that over time the awareness of humanity expands. If you think back to maybe so many centuries ago and some of the concepts that humans had about other humans or even other animals, I mean, animals, not just in human form, and how those concepts, the awareness has shifted. Those of us born aware and deeply spiritual know that everyone and everything is connected. Everyone, everything is connected. I know that a lot of people still can't understand that, don't subscribe, if you could use that term, to that awareness. But for us, it's not a belief. It's a knowing. It's an awareness.
And you hear that from near death experiences as well when they come back. It's something they all seem to say. Um, and I give comfort in reasoning that it seems as if the most growth occurs in difficult times. And so also if you read up on hardship, it's different from going through it. And, maybe on the other side, we're like, yeah, sign me up for everything. Then we go through that veil. We go through the veil of forgetfulness. And then
Exactly.
we're like, what did I sign up for?
Exactly. Exactly. And and the other thing too is some people go through horrific experiences. Um, and it's very sad, but I agree. I think we do not remember when we're on the other side. I'm not saying that that's true of every soul on the other side. But yeah, I think for a lot of souls who agree to come, it's a very hopeful thing. I will get growth this way. And see, the awareness on the other side is very different from the awareness here, because on the other side we are more spiritually oriented, and we look for that soul growth. While we're here, we look for material comfort and emotional happiness. So it's completely different awareness and sometimes different priorities as well.
That resonates as well. And the thing is, what do we have? We have eternity to come, to reincarnate here or hopefully in other places as well. So it's not like it's one and done, unfortunately.
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
we keep coming back.
And people have expressed frustration to me, why do we have to go through this? But our perspective is very limited while we're here. Again, our human minds are like this, whereas on the other side, we have a much more expanded awareness. So, but unfortunately, on this planet, again, we have duality, and we have that denser vibration, but it all serves a purpose. And I
Yeah.
think that's important. It can't be proven to us that it serves a purpose. We can either complain about it and continue to complain, or we can kind of suspend judgment and go, okay. But I know it's easier for me to say that because I remember. But
But I like that advice and perspective because there are two ways we could go through life. One is complaining or just, going not complaining. And
yes,
so we have choices. And the mindset makes a difference.
mindset definitely makes a difference. And I think too, you know, if we can learn to focus on connecting with other people, not with what somebody looks like on the outside, but with who they are on the inside, it is exhilarating. It's a positive feeling to be out, maybe running errands or something and just to connect in a warm, positive way with somebody else, even if it's a momentary exchange. So I think we can find rewarding occurrences while we're here. Doesn't mean we have them all the time. We don't have them 100% of the time, but they can really be positive and helpful to us.
Absolutely. It just makes life a little bit more enjoyable. Diane, can we talk about the dream interpretations a little bit?
Absolutely.
As I mentioned before, and you pointed out why, I was telling you that I don't seem to remember my dreams at all. So, how do you work with people in this area?
I always try to meet people where they are. And so we talk about their dreams and their sleep experiences. And sometimes people want me to just interpret or help them understand, a specific dream or a couple of dreams. And, I know I tend to complicate things, but there are different types of dreams. There are many different types of dreams. There are different possible sources of dreams. So we don't necessarily want to work at interpreting every dream that we have. We tend to have a sense that a dream was significant or not. And so that's what we want to go by. And there's a lot that goes on while we're sleeping. Um, so, one thing that happens physiologically when we go to sleep is the naming part or cerebral cortex tends to be shut off because they're different brain chemicals that, that are predominant while we're asleep. And so this is why some dreams can seem to be really weird because our unconscious has to find other ways to convey meaning than words. And so this is why you have the imagery in dreams. And some symbols in dreams are really puns. I tend to use the example of, trying to pick a bucket up and you can't. Well, that can mean just simply you can't, there's something you can't get a handle on. So it's a very different world from our waking world, our waking reality. Um, and some dreams are not just dreaming about something, they may be actual experiences. We can communicate with other people, whether the other person is here in body or has transitioned. We can be off, a part of our consciousness can be off exploring other places and other time periods. Some people remember helping other people, while they're sleeping. They're traveling and helping. Some people go to a place where they're being taught, where they're in a class or whatever. So there are
That's
all
why
sorts.
Yeah, that's why you'll hear some people say it felt so real.
Yes, yes, because it was. It was. And we have to remember that we're not talking necessarily about real in the sense of our waking three-dimensional reality, because there are other realities than just our waking three-dimensional reality. Um, there's so much,
Yeah.
and sometimes we're working on personal issues in our dreams. And if there's an issue we're not working on, our dreams may be going, hey, nightmares, for example, often have to do with what we're going through or old unresolved issues. And I personally feel that our unconscious is always trying to bring us to balance. It's not trying to punish us, it's trying to bring us to balance. Some people tend to have precognitive dreams about things that will happen in the future. So we all have our own particular way in which we dream. So, however it works for us is how it's supposed to work for us. So, it's very rich, it's very complex. And, you know, I started reading research on sleep and dreams as an undergrad way before I got into my intuition. And so I think we have to respect, our sleeping world, our dreaming world, and not try to judge it or evaluate it by the criteria we would use in waking life because it's not the same thing. But we can gain so much from working with our dreams. And as I mentioned, I've always loved to sleep because it's the closest I can come to being back on the other side. So I don't try to control my dreams because I feel that there's a purpose. And I just just let them unfold however they're going to unfold. But I think our sleeping world is wonderful too.
I heard a talk about that when I was younger, about which one is real. I've heard
Yes,
Paramhansa Yogananda also say that we are in a dream, and when we go on the other side, that's when we truly awake. So it's like,
absolutely. Because parts of our consciousness are not available to us. Parts of our consciousness awareness that we have on the other side are not available to us here. So we're living in a much more restricted part of the awareness we have on the other side. And yes, yes, I've heard those same ideas over the years, which is really the dream. Um, because in our dreams, as you know, I know you don't dream a lot, Mira, but there's so many types of experiences we can have, that in waking life we don't have access to. And I think we do ourselves a disservice when we try to judge the dream and go, oh, we poo poo it. Oh, that was so crazy. That was just bizarre. And we dismiss it. And this is where being able to tease out the meanings, can help us so much. But that's just different, one particular type of dream, because there are all these other dream experiences and sleep experiences that we can have, um, that enrich us and can give us information and really help us in our life. And again, I'm going to say it again. I feel that our unconscious is trying to bring us to balance. It's trying to help us. Our unconscious is not this big bugaboo deep inside of us that's trying to trip us up.
I really like that. And I really feel what you said about the dream state, because I feel we are freer. Because while we are conscious, while we are awake, we do have that sense of restriction. We're, a little bit more conservative. Whereas in the dream state, we may be open, a little bit more open, and be able to learn to maybe have these visits with loved ones on the other side,
Mhm.
etc. So it's wonderful. It's a whole other world that we have access to.
Yes, you put it really well, Mira.
Oh, thank you so much, Diane. I really enjoyed this conversation. What message would you have for someone who's probably at the edge of life, or who is taking care of someone at the edge of life, since you have your memories of the other side?
I would say, first of all, that for anyone nearing transitioning, that there's some wonderful, wonderful, wonderful things waiting for you. That there's nothing to fear except for what you may go through as you're transitioning, if it's a painful transition. But you will be freed up. You will reunite with loved ones. You will be in the most positive place that you couldn't even imagine how positive it will be. You will feel love. You will feel support. New vistas will open up for you. And you will acclimate, adjust to it very, very, very quickly. And you will be assisted along that path. Being reunited, is a wonderful thing. And I'm sure you know this, Mira. For a lot of people, before they transition, some loved ones who had transitioned may appear to them, may be communicating with them. So I would say there really is nothing to fear. As I mentioned, I look forward to being back on the other side. Um, Sometimes if we realize that there's nothing to fear, we won't try to glom on so tightly to what is here. And it doesn't matter if you do that or not. It doesn't matter if you are fearful. You will find out how wonderful the other side is. So I can't say don't be afraid, because it may be natural. But I know it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And as I keep saying, I can't wait until I'm back on the other side. I just need to do what I'm supposed to do here before I'm allowed to do that.
That
So,
is a re-
yes,
that
yes.
is a really beautiful message, and I was fortunate to see both my parents cross over. So I
Hmm.
feel like, in addition to them giving me the gift of life, I was able to see them cross over. And you're right, my grandmother um, came. I was sitting next to my dad when he could not eat in his last days. And he was making the motion of eating. And I asked him what he was doing. And he told me his mom was feeding him. So I was so touched that she came over to provide that sense of food that he couldn't eat physically. So that was wonderful. And my
That's
mom,
beautiful.
thank you. And my mom had her sisters here in her last week as well, and my dad, because he passed over first. And she was asking me if I was, giving them food to eat. And I told her yes. So it really, I felt so grateful to these family members who came to help them over in their transitions.
Yes, yes. I was not with my mother when she transitioned. That was in a different. We were in different states, but I was with my father, and a few weeks before he transitioned, he kept saying Val. And I knew he was seeing my Aunt Val, his sister, who had transitioned, you know, many years before. And I know as he was starting to transition, he was struggling. And so I said to him, "You've done everything you came to do, so you can go." And, I know he's in a much better place, much better.
Thank you, Diane. I have three questions I ask everyone. What brings you joy and laughter these days?
Oh, being able to get some writing done and seeing um, when it's warmer, seeing my tomatoes and other things I grow do well. And actually, I have a Christmas cactus that just started to bloom, and it's a beautiful color. So things
Those
like
are
that,
beautiful. Yeah.
and our our dogs doing silly things. Um, our older dog, a female, very very smart and quite a character, likes to watch TV. So watching her doing this, she's taking things in. So simple things.
That's beautiful. What would you tell little Diane who's about to embark on this wonderful journey?
That's a wonderful question, Mira. Wonderful question. I would probably say, yes, I know, I understand that you don't want to come. You will encounter many, many different situations, different people. You will grow even more. Your awareness, your ability to kind of sync up the levels will improve, will increase, and you will lead a rewarding, even if painful at times, lifetime. And you just put one foot in front of the other and continue.
Lovely. What final message or blessing do you have for those listening?
Oh, I would encourage you, no matter where you are in your journey, no matter what you're experiencing, even if you're experiencing difficult things, there's hope. There's hope. You are always loved by beings on the other side, by God, and allow yourself at your own pace to explore, to start to go within, explore who you are on different levels inside. Allow yourself to embrace what I call your true essence. Know that you are who you are for a reason and that you have special gifts to share in this lifetime. And to know that it is all a journey, it is all a process. Yes, there will be ups and downs, but as you are learning and unfolding, the joys can become even more intense and rewarding.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Diane, for all the work that you're doing to help humanity. And I enjoyed our conversation tremendously. And I hope everyone enjoyed this as much as I did.